I think that Trump is very stupid. Trump, I think, is being used a lot by other forces in the background that are not spineless hacks. I'm tired of this game we have to play where Republicans mess everything up and then the Democrats have to come in and pick up the straps and do governance. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Mike Johnson and Pete Hegseth and, Pam Bondi and this Bovee guy, the deputy AG, and Patel. These guys are all crazy and they're all saying crazy things constantly.
Today we're having this conversation when we talk about hostage return. Would you concede that to your man Trump? Not at all.
Absolutely not, no. Why wasn't it on day one?
Welcome to Thinkers on Times Radio. You know what we do here. We try and have a bit of a longer conversation with an interesting, thoughtful person, tackle some of the big issues with a bit of nuance. I'm delighted to say today we're joined by, all the way from the US, actually flown into this country, Steven Bonnell, aka the YouTuber and streamer Destiny, one of the earliest people to make streaming a full-time career, now known for his discussions on politics and social issues as well. So much so that one Elon Musk, no less, recently called for him to go to prison. There's plenty to unpack with him. Stephen, good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me here.
Can we just start at the beginning? I'm really interested that you're in the world of games, and then it looked like 2016, the world of Trump arrives, first time up, you become more politically engaged. Was it a conscious decision, or was the world kind of calling to you because it felt like a new type of politics was in the air?
I've always had kind of a political background. My mom is Cuban, so my household was a very conservative Republican household growing up. I think I wrote articles to my school journal defending George Bush and the Iraq War and everything. So I grew up very conservative, very politically active. And I was always kind of interested in politics and, in science and philosophy and just talking about stuff. So even while I was playing games as a streamer, I was also, chatting about stuff in the background like that. And around 2016, you had Trump kind of come up, Trump and Bernie, and they got a lot of young people involved in a very different way. And then the gaming communities had this whole fiasco thing called Gamergate.
I remember Gamergate, yeah.
Yeah, which was...
That's like misogyny and that sort of thing, wasn't it?
Well, if you ask 5 different people, you get 10 different answers about what that was about.
Yeah. It was a political moment in gaming.
It was a very political moment in gaming, yeah. And then, gaming had its moment, and I saw so much involvement from different gaming people, and I thought the conversations were so horrible. I was like, I could improve this, and I could join this and, make this part of my content. And now I'm just another one of the voices screaming into the abyss, I guess.
Was it frowned on in the gaming world to have a political opinion at one point? Were you supposed to just focus? How they always tell footballers just focus on the football. Do people say to you just focus on the games, stop talking about politics?
A little bit. It depends on what you mean when you say that, I guess. I think generally the phrase "don't make this political" is actually people don't realize it, and I'm not accusing people of being bad faith, but that's coded language for I want to maintain the status quo. Yeah. So generally, if the environment is a certain way, and so maybe we should change this aspect of the environment, people say, well, let's not get political here. And what that means is I like the current environment. Let's not change it. So yeah, I would say for the most part, when I started doing politics on, it would have been Twitch. It was still Twitch. It was Twitch TV at that point. Nobody else was really doing it in the gamer world. Everybody in the gamer world was pretty right-leaning, so everybody called me bad names because I was the only kind of left-leaning gamer guy, because that world just tended to produce more.
Really?
Yeah, not I wouldn't say conservatives. They were people who were kind of socially liberal, but it was very much like a boys' club, more affluent people. So kind of opposed to the women, the feminists coming into the gaming space and trying to take it over with their female characters and everything. So yeah, I was one of the only left-leaning people in that environment, so I had a lot of pushback initially.
And how would you describe yourself now politically? So we'll talk about your view on Trump in a minute, but just generally,
I would say I'm
Democrat.
Yeah, I'm very strong supporter of the Democratic Party, very solidly center left in a lot of ways.
Voted for Harris?
Yes.
Happily?
7 times. Me and all my illegal immigrant friends. We drove over and over again. Went to every polling station.
Were you happy about voting for Harris?
Yeah.
You thought she would make a good president?
I think so, but I know she would have been an infinitely better president than Donald Trump.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Not even close.
I want to talk about Trump because I present a breakfast show. We cover him a lot. I'm very struck by Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0 are very different beasts. Trump 1.0, really, when you were starting this off in 2016, everyone laughed at him. Including in the tech world, it strikes me that if the big tech bros laughed at him, people around the world laughed at him. He was sort of sitting in his little room in the White House watching TV and tweeting. He looked very ineffectual and very powerless. And then Trump 2.0 has the tech bros behind him. He feels that whether or not you agree with what he's doing, he's much more of a powerful figure than he was when you started talking about him first time up. Do you think that's right?
Kind of, yeah. I think first and foremost, I think that Trump is very stupid. Okay, and I think that when he first came into office, I don't think he realized, I don't think he had any concept of what it meant to run a government. And I think he thought that he could just tell anybody anything and they would just kind of do it. And that's what it meant to be president. And obviously, it's funny because we thought that it was like doomsday scenario back then when Trump won. But the first cabinet he had, these guys were like all-stars compared to the Joker squad we have now. It's funny to think of like Rex Tillerson. These are like the big, oh God, an oil guy or whatever is going to be the, I think he was Secretary of State, compared to, Kristi Noem and Hegseth and Cash and just everything now is just crazy. So second time around, I think Trump realized I need sycophants. I need people who are willing to break the rules, break the norms. It's not enough to have strong conservatives. Like before, people were worried that Bill Barr was going to let Trump do crazy stuff. I remember the New Yorker wrote a really good profile called, I think it was called William Barr, the Sword and Shield of Donald Trump or something like that. And even for Barr, it was too much, right? Like a month before, I think the election, or before January 6th, he was gone. He's like, this is too much. You're asking me to lie and do crazy stuff. I can't do it. So this time around, he's got the appropriate cabinet who will literally just do whatever he wants. And there's like two levels of scary to that. The first level of scary is that, Trump just wants to do crazy stuff. I think the far more scary thing, though, is that Trump, I think, is being used a lot by other forces in the background that are not spineless hacks. Like I would say Rubio is a spineless hack, but I could tolerate a Rubio presidency. Yeah. But like Stephen Miller, I would say that guy's like evil. This guy's an evil, crazy
Rubio's
guy.
a kind of normal politician. Rubio you can imagine existing really in most periods of American politics. If there are figures like Rubio all over the place. Do you think Miller goes beyond that?
Way beyond that. The best description I've heard of Rubio in this cabinet is Rubio is the only person in the cabinet who knows he's going to hell. And everybody else is just on some crazy stuff.
Trump's actually seriously said that point. He was asked why he wants world peace, and he actually said, some people think I'm going to struggle to get into heaven. This is going to help me get into heaven.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just the new saying he learned. He has these sayings that he likes. America's the hottest country. Everybody, like he's just got these sayings that he has.
I'm interested in you because I've got a thing I'm think of a lot is the rise of religion in politics. Strikes me that we'll talk about Charlie Kirk in a bit, but particularly on the right, it strikes me that religion is far more important. I know America's always had a very strong religious right, a very strong religion in politics, which we haven't really had in this country, but it's starting to sneak in. It feels like the rise of a certain type of religious behavior, because you sort of say it's Judeo-Christian values, which is a sort of code for whiteness as well, I suspect. You struck by that Trump actually has to be a bit religious in order to prosper because of the people who he needs to support him.
A little. I would say, I would very carefully say, not religion, but like the aesthetic of religion, not nationalism or patriotism, the aesthetic of nationalism. I think it's all weaponized. And it is important because it's like it can motivate people, obviously, to very powerful ends because your enemies are literally evil, right? I think Trump said that in the that Charlie Kirk, whatever that pro wrestling event was or whatever. Trump came out and said, Charlie said he didn't want to hate our enemies, but I hate our enemies or whatever. And all this like good and evil.
You said his memorial service.
Yeah, the memorial.
Why is it a pro wrestling event?
Well, just it was just a crazy the sparklers and everything else. I just thought it was an insane event. Yeah, it was a political rally, right? Is what it felt like. It was that. So yeah, I think that.
Do you feel okay saying that? Because I know that it very clearly was a rally. I mean, I remember saying that on the radio. But there's a lot of heightened emotion around Charlie Kirk, and do you worry about what his followers, people affiliated with him now, think about what you think, or do you not care?
I mean, I am worried about it, but I think it's bad to back away from it because that's what they want. That's like the goal is to, I think, instill fear on the other side. The thing that I said, I thought that the Erica Kirk, I thought she was saying some kind of cringe, weird stuff right after Charlie died. But the statement I make is that I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like to lose a spouse in that environment. And so I would allow for a little bit of wackiness, craziness. But when she's starting to do fundraisers for TPUSA, when she's starting to allow all these other people to come on and basically campaign, on her dead husband's podcast and everything, it's like, okay, the rule of the internet when I'm fighting with people, this is my background, right? Is that if I call you an idiot and you call me okay, well, fine, that's the level we're at, If I make fun of your, I say you're, your dad sucks, I hate your dad or whatever, and you make fun of my mom, it's like, okay, we're on that level. But when people bring it to a certain level, then that's the level that I would say it's permissible to fight at. When you bring out, Erica Kirk as this fundraising weapon, and you're going to start using it as a cudgel against Democrats and as a platform to, accuse all of us of being violent and crazy, okay, well, fine, then we be critical of the way that you guys are running stuff.
So she becomes fair game then?
Yeah, I was absolutely, of course. Yeah. I think the texts were going out like 2 days after Charlie Kirk died with pictures of her and him like fundraising for TPUSA. She got like $8 million in fundraisers for her family.
But there's a danger here, isn't it, Stephen, that you kind of object to a sort of coarsening of discourse. But in order to fight that, you coarsen it yourself.
Yeah, I think it's a bit, it seems a bit paradoxical, but only because norms have been so broken in the United States. I think it's actually perfectly reasonable. The Republicans are just good at pretending it's not reasonable. If you and I want to have a fist fight with no knives, like how many of us need to agree to that for it to actually happen?
Yeah, the both of us.
Yeah, both of us. You can't make that decision on your own, right? If I show up with a weapon and you don't have any, you can't turn down the temperature on that fight. We're going to fight to the death. So one of us is going to die, right? In the United States, there's this weird phenomenon that's happening where Republicans will not disavow violence on their side, and they keep ratcheting it up. All the rhetoric. When Trump was on Fox and Friends, I think a couple of weeks or a week or maybe it was a week after Charlie died, and they were asking him, like, what do you say to the followers on your side? And he's like, well, right-wing violence is righteous, and left-wing, they're criminals. And, when the people on the right get mad, they got a good reason to be mad. And, we were supposed to fight at the ballot box, but now they rig all the elections. Like, Jesus, like you're saying stuff that's, yeah.
But in order to do that, you descend to that level. I mean, I'm interested because you said on Piers Morgan, our colleague Piers Morgan here, I won't condemn anything. This is about Charlie Kirk's murder until Trump can go on air and say all of us need to calm down. But you're a rational, humane guy.
I am rational. Very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say one thing to correct you.
Yeah.
My position is not the same. I didn't go down to his level. My level is let's all do it together.
Well, I understand that argument, but you also at a human level, you would concede the murder, the snipering of a bloke for having free opinions is wrong. Like you would, in your heart, you do believe that the murder of Charlie Kirk is wrong. Now,
not just in my heart. I've said it too. On that Piers episode, I said it twice. Like, I go out and do these speeches. I don't want to get killed, even in a self-interested way. Yeah, we should never be killing each other for political opinions. Not in the United States.
But you said also you need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events, so they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature.
Yes.
So you think they've ratcheted it up such that actually Charlie Kirk is kind of collateral damage?
Yes. This is what I felt the same way in the Trump rally, and Piers had me on and screamed at me for that one. That quote made the circuit because people were saying that I was saying we need to kill more conservatives in order to make them afraid. But what I'm saying is that like when there's a way that people speak sometimes about violence where it feels like they haven't seen any or experienced any. Like if you go to the United States, you can find a lot of people that will romanticize the concept of civil war or whatever else. But like my guess is if you go to find a bunch of people who live in Ukraine or you go talk to a bunch of people in the Gaza Strip, they probably wouldn't have the same feelings about how romantic the Cold War is. And when I listen to conservatives talk, it sounds like religious fervor as a metaphor, not actually religious, but it's
actually both. I think that's the point.
They sound like excited for it, and I'm like, there's just no like. When the Trump assassination attempt happened and Biden came on, it was just we all need to stop. This isn't okay. We can't do this. It wasn't the right wing is responsible. They own this. And if the roles would have been reversed, if Charlie Kirk would have gotten killed and I would have had Kamala Harris in office, and if she would have come on and if she would have made the statements Trump made, I would say, like, you're throwing me under the bus. I'm going to get killed in an event. Why can't you tell everybody to calm down? Why would you just attack conservatives? It's crazy.
But you're also playing a game here as well, Stephen, aren't you? Because you're in the content game, and in it, there's always been a content game even before technology caught up with it. I mean, newspapers did it, radio's done it, TV's done it, and now it's the turn of social media and other aspects of the internet. But in order to be heard, you have to play the game as well. So although you might make the case, a very solid case, the Conservatives are ratcheting things up, they're using rhetoric in a certain way. In order to play that game, you're getting involved as well. And you have to accept that.
I mean, I agree and disagree to some extent. I think that calling it a game kind of trivializes it. Okay. Like capturing attention is important, is necessary for politics. Yeah. But I don't capture attention disingenuously. Like you can watch. I've got hours of my stream where we're reading the most boring research papers. We're doing a lot of boring stuff. Like I'm not just out here like a Milo Yiannopoulos type figure just saying whatever. But I do feel strongly that one of the things that conservatives have done so well in U.S. media is they fight on everything. And when you're constantly playing defense, the best you can do is hold off an attack, but you'll never make ground. So even when you feel like a Democrat has like one kind of a fight, right? So we have a shutdown right now. Mike Johnson goes onto his show and, Democrats want to shut down the government to give $1.5 trillion in healthcare to illegals or whatever. If you fight back and forth on that, let's say that you win the fight and we got him. Mike Johnson, that's not true. Okay, well, you fended off that attack. Why is the government shut down? What are the Republicans doing, right? So when Republicans are constantly dictating the battlefield everywhere, it's like, no, I don't think that should be the case. I think that there should be stronger statements from the left, like Donald Trump needs to disavow violence. No more of this looking to the left. You need to do it, and then all of us can do it together, which is what we should be doing. It's a no-brainer under Biden. It should be a no-brainer to Trump.
Is there a problem here that we've suffered? And again, I don't, it's easy to look back in the past and say, well, this wasn't the case. But has there been a sort of industrialized lack of good faith? That the way people talk now, the way that algorithms encourage us to talk, the way that social media encourages us to talk, look at X under Elon Musk, where there's a certain type of person who gets promoted, who'll talk in a certain way, that actually we've lost the ability to disagree decently. You talked about two people in an argument. We've lost the ability to consider there is an arbitration point, which is fact. There is something that is demonstrable here, and we can both appeal to that and make our arguments, and then there'll be good faith in how we express those arguments and good faith in how those arguments are then assessed. All of that's gone, actually, and now we live in a world of just rhetoric and tribes, and there's no real way out of that.
I think the internet has fundamentally changed a lot of how we communicate with each other. I think that there is a really good conversation to be had about that. But in the United States, both sides are not the same when it comes to messaging. I don't recall any shooter. And I mean, it's almost like comical to think, some guy's out there and it's like, Joe Biden radicalized me. I'm out here fighting for Hillary Clinton. Like, that just doesn't happen. When you look at the candor, when you look at the demeanor of the presidents, and the way they talk is important. Republicans like to play this weird game sometimes. We're like, oh, well, I don't care. I don't care what he says. He can be a joker. I just want him to get stuff done. Now, he doesn't get stuff done either. But like Donald Trump is known as the guy that calls people bad nicknames, right? People talk about, all these coded languages. The Democrats said they want to fight or whatever. Like Donald Trump did J6. He tried to coup the government. Donald Trump has told his audience, if you beat that guy up, I'll pay your legal fees. He's made several references to shooting Liz Cheney. Let's line her up in front of a firing squad. The Second Amendment guys could do something about Hillary Clinton. He makes so many of these comments over and over and over again. For the Charlie Kirk shooting, it was a young Mormon guy, it seems, that came from a place, right? We still don't know why he did it, do we, really? Not really, no. We had all the Republican media lighting up about how, if your church isn't talking about this, they're part of the problem. And then we had a guy whose Facebook feed was inundated with crazy MAGA Trump stuff, drive his truck into a Mormon church and shoot it up, and no one even knows. Like, we forgot about that in one day, right? The guy with the two flags in the back of his truck. It's not the same. And Republicans need to get a hold on it. I'm tired of this game we have to play where Republicans mess everything up, and then the Democrats have to come in and pick up the scraps and do governance, and then the Republicans come in and they go crazy again. It's like this cycle is not sustainable. Yeah,
I've had this conversation with people on the left in America before, and they don't always agree with it, or even often agree with it. I'm interested in your thoughts on this, which is, does the left have some responsibility? Because in the course for social justice, which is a laudable aim, the pendulum swung sometimes to an extreme where they started defending 50 different genders and sexualities, hundreds of different flags, where saying things like defund the police, where in order to get what is intellectually sustainably social justice, they allowed the extreme to drive the narrative. And that in turn has both motivated and in some way sanctified the right's fight back. Does the left have some level of responsibility for that, do you think?
They can have some level of responsibility. But again, there's a very clever game that's being played in that when people think they're looking at the right and the left, what they're really looking at is they're looking at the right, and then they're looking at what the right wants you to look at, which is their impression of the left. I guarantee you I'm going to be fighting about this in a few hours with Piers, because we always play this game where Piers will say something like, how do you answer to the fact that, this guy on Twitter said this thing and this guy, and I'm like, how the you answer the fact that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Mike Johnson and Pete Hegseth and, Pam Bondi and this Bovee guy, the deputy AG, and Patel, these guys are all crazy, and they're all saying crazy things constantly. And then we're talking about this guy on Twitter,
Who doesn't matter.
How much conversation about trans people was started by Joe Biden, or was started by Kamala, or was started by Barack Obama, or was started by, Democrat lawmakers, or was started on CNN or MSNBC? It's always Republicans that bring it up. And remember, when you're on the defense, the best you can do is win. And if you don't get 100% win, then you've lost something that the Republicans want to attack you on. And that's why there's like so much. At one point, there was a YouGov poll a few years ago. I think conservatives think like 25% of Americans are trans.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, so I will say that like the left needs to do a better job at saying like, listen, this stuff over here, like this is crazy. It's whatever. We don't believe it. But they have to pay prices for bad thoughts on their side. The BLM stuff was really unpopular in the United States, and they had to, Biden and Kamala, when they were running in that election, they had to disavow the violence. The violence needs to stop, guys. We can't do this. When Donald Trump lost his election in 2020, first of all, they don't even say they lost, number one. And number two, they didn't change anything. They were like, we're going to run the same campaign. We're going to run even harder next time. And that was all they did.
And yet, we're talking on a day where the hostages have been returned in Israel. And there is a conversation to be had. And I think, I've been talking about Donald Trump, as you have, for years and years and years. It does strike me, however you look this up and down, that Trump is incapable of long-term thinking. So whether or not there'll be peace in the Middle East, whether or not there'll be peace in Ukraine, I think it's very unlikely Donald Trump will be able to affect that in any meaningful way. But has Donald Trump gone and shaken Netanyahu, shaken the Qataris, got Hamas's attention, and helped to get the hostages home? I would suggest that he has. And for all the liberal desire to slag off Donald Trump, there are certain things that sort of simplistic, route one, eyes on the prize attitude probably does help. It might not help in long-term policymaking or long-term peacemaking, but it probably has helped. Today we're having this conversation when we talk about hostage return. Would you concede that to your man Trump? Not at all.
Absolutely not, no. Why wasn't it on day one?
Why did he not achieve it on day one? Well, these things, Netanyahu's a big player in all of this. He has influence over Netanyahu, clearly, and the Qataris. I mean, none of this is easy, but do you not even accept that Trump was a force for good in this area?
Not much. The reason why I submit to you that Netanyahu got a huge string of military wins, so lucky. Nasrallah dead, the Hezbollah pagered into the next, dimension. He got all the top brass, Hania, Dave Mohammed, the one Sinwar or whatever, he killed every Hamas leader, and then the new leaders, and he's bombing every country. He got the United States to come in and clean up Iran's nuclear program for however long. After that many win. If I have somebody who's got a cold, and on the fourth day of them having a cold, I give them a Coke Zero, and they happen to get better the next day, I'm not going to say the Coke Zero cured them. Did Donald Trump drive this peace process? I mean, how many more times can Netanyahu invade the Gaza Strip? If he would have solved it the day that he came in, like he said he would, then I'd be like, oh, maybe he has something to do here. But here, I think Israel's probably ready. They got a really sweet deal on this 20-point plan, 21-point plan, or whatever it is.
Which probably won't happen in any event. But I mean, you talk to Israelis and you look at Hostages Square, they credit Donald Trump for this.
Yeah, I hate Israelis.
Israelis.
I do. I hate them. These
I thought you were pro-Israel.
I'm pro-Israel in the West. In Israel proper, I'm like a left-wing. They
hate you for being...
Well, I'm being a little dramatic, but on the... People in the West think that if you're not full on, all of Israel needs to be bombed and destroyed, you're pro-Israel.
Yeah.
I'm very critical of both sides. I think the Netanyahu administration has done a lot of stupid stuff, and I'm not supportive of this administration.
I don't think anyone would necessarily disagree with, would they?
I think that coalition, especially after all the military wins, I think is doing pretty good in Israel right now. And I think it seemed in general when I was over there, I think Israelis like Trump, because Trump would basically give a blank check to Israelis to do anything. Jews in the United States hate Trump, but they're American Jews or whatever, right? They're not Israelis. So obviously Israelis are going to be happy with Trump because Trump is giving them a blank check to do basically whatever they want to do.
And then what follows from this is anyone's game, isn't it? This idea that we're further away than ever from some sort of manageable peace. I mean, how does that even work in because Trump can back Netanyahu as he has done, the hostages come back, and then what seems to be an obvious question.
I mean, it feels like Netanyahu basically has the reins on everything going on.
But he might be kicked out of office next year, and then we'll see.
Then we'll see which direction Israel goes. But I mean, Do you have a left-wing coalition after, Netanyahu was able to deliver so much success militarily? I haven't seen the polling and everything. I don't know. Maybe the country.
I think if you look at the polling, also they blame him for October the 7th anyway because he was in charge when they let it happen.
Sure.
And I think it's very hard for him to look past that. Plus, he's got a corruption trial, which is going to hit him as soon as he gets out of power. Mm-hmm. Do you believe in a Palestinian state?
Yeah, that means really different things to different people. But
what does it mean to you?
There has to be, like, the difficult conversations that nobody in the West ever has is that there needs to be a big reckoning with the refugee thing. Like that, even in Israeli-Palestinian negotiation history, that's just never brought up. It's an uncomfortable topic that nobody broaches, and then it's getting bigger and bigger because of the way they do it every year. Basically, what is it, like 6 million refugees right now? So that has to get figured out. What is it?
Lebanon, in places like that.
Yeah, in the surrounding states because they're not allowed to accept them as citizens. It's part of the air resolution rule. And then, how do you manage your holy sites? Like, what are we doing with East Jerusalem, with some of the historic neighborhoods, your Sheikh Jarrahs? Like, how do you figure some of these finer points out? Which is not going
to be Trump's interest, is it?
Trump doesn't know anything about any of this or care. I don't think Trump could find Israel on a map. So,
So just from a psychological point of view, does he just get the hostages back, which has happened? Mm-hmm. Talk about peace loudly.
He just wants there to not be any more bombing stuff going on, so he doesn't have to talk about it anymore, and he can focus on his U.S. project.
But if there are no more bombs and the hostages are back, maybe you should just credit him with that. That there's 20 people who are happier today than they otherwise would have been. There may be some Palestinian people who aren't going to be bombed tomorrow because Trump, even late, flexed a bit and got something done.
What did he flex?
Well, he must have said. Well, he got Netanyahu to apologise for the
make
Qataris.
That phone call. Yeah, I remember that. He was also allowed to bomb them. That's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no credit.
I'll give him a
fraction of credit.
I'll give him a gold star, I guess, if he wants the gold star. Okay. I'll give him a gold star.
I'm sure he really would.
If he could have ended the war earlier, then he said he was going to end it on day one. He said that's his fault, not my fault. Like I'm only holding him to his own standard. He said day one.
He said the same about Ukraine.
He did.
And these things are difficult.
Yeah, they are. Kind of like Doge finding $2 trillion in waste, fraud, and abuse ends up being a couple billion, right?
We've got a really interesting thing. I guess the Reform Party, which is the right-wing party in this country, led by Nigel Farage, had this moment where it saw Doge. So it said, we're going to do Doge in local councils. And two things have happened. A, people have said to him, are you sure? Because Doge hasn't actually worked in America. And two, when they've gone into their local councils, magically, they've not found all the money they thought they'd find.
I don't know if it's the same in the UK, but in the United States, people just think the government and people that work in the government make way more money than they actually do.
Yeah.
This is not it. The money is in like my positions, alternative media positions, is people that do, like the entertainment side of things or people that are like involved in the corporate side of things. Government people are not making anywhere near the money that people seem to think they are. They think they can go to the government and find all this wasteful spending. It is just, it's just not, at least in the US, it wasn't there. Yeah.
Well, I think also for what happens to politicians in this country is because they don't want tax raises and they don't want to cut public services. The magic money tree is we'll do the same thing other people have done, but we'll do it quicker and cheaper and we won't waste it. Now, you probably can do a bit of that. If you came in with a proper attitude, you could probably find wastage in local government. I'm sure there's civil services increased by 300,000 people in the last sort of 15 years. So there's clearly an argument that stuff could be done better, but that's what governments always say. They'll always find a better way of collecting tax. They'll crack down on tax.
Sometimes you're going to say line by line through the code and find, It's like when you have a friend who like weighs, you guys use stones here, 30 stone? I don't know. They weigh 300 pounds and the friend is
25 stone.
Sure, 25 stone. And the friend is like, I'm going to stop eating in the morning because I heard that I wait to eat, my metabolism will start. And it's like, you just need to eat less. Like, there's an obvious answer, and it's it sucks, but like, there's no shortcut there. And in the United States, I said this a ton. Like, if you look, you need programmatic cuts, or you need to expand your tax base. Yeah. It's one or the other. You're not making anything significant. This whole like waste fraud, you're nibbling around the edges on a massive expenditure federal budget. Yeah.
In this country, we say that people want American taxes and Scandinavian public services, and you can't really have both of it. You can have one or the other, but you can't have both. If you want Scandinavian public services, you got to pay a massive amount of income tax.
That's funny. And in America, we think we have Scandinavian taxes. No one has any idea what you guys in Europe pay for taxes. Yeah. And then we think we have services that are the equivalent of like Somalia or the United people in the US are funny.
Before you go, are you optimistic? Because there's an argument that we're all going to hell in a handcart here, and actually public discourse is awful, and the right versus the left is never going to get any better. You know, Trump might stick around for a third term. JD Vance might do it instead. The left's going to have to weaponize itself to fight back. Social media isn't going anywhere. AI is going to be thrown into this mess to make it even worse. I mean, are you despairing, or are you at the front line of this stuff feeling optimistic?
Not to sound corny, but the watching Charlie Kirk get shot on video, that was a really crazy moment to see somebody who's essentially a colleague to get murdered on a stream doing events that are similar to what I do. I think we had an event planned, like I think a week and a half after his death. And initially I told they're called Unfuck America. I told them, I don't think I can go to this. This is like, I don't want to get killed, because I'm like one of the more inflammatory people. But then you quoted that Elon Musk tweet, and Trump Jr. all started tweeting him. He's like, well, okay, well, I'm not gonna get bullied out of going to the event. And before I went, I think the chances of anything happening are incredibly unlikely, just because probabilistically, I don't think I would actually get killed in an event. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I wrote up a little note, and I had like my manager was like, okay, just in case, like publish this. And it's funny when I sit down initially, like I'm always filled with like so much anger towards this administration and everything. But when I was like trying to write something short and sweet, what I actually found out at the end was
this is your post-death manifesto kind of.
Not manifesto, but it was a very short. This was like one paragraph long, but it was basically like. I think in order for anybody to do anything on a level that is greater than themselves, I think you have to have some fundamental optimism in the general direction or arc of human existence. So when you say like, is it doomer? Like things get really bad sometimes, but the general arc of history has been a positive one. And I think even if it's delusional, you have to believe that. I think you have to until you can't anymore, until it's all over. So yeah.
Let's leave it on that note, shall we?
Okay.
It's it might be a delusion, but it's probably a necessary delusion for now.
Absolutely.
Stephen, great to speak to you, my friend. Really interesting stuff. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching. You know what to do. You can leave a comment beneath. I know it'll be a thoughtful and a polite one. Thanks very much to Destiny, to Steven Bonnell for joining us. We'll be back with some more guests as we go along. My name's Stig Abell. I present The Breakfast Show on Times Radio, and this is called Thinkers. Do join us again.